Hey, what do you do when you have something, whether it's a video, it's a blog post, whatever it may be? What happens when something is an outlier? And what I mean by that is it performs below average or above average. And while you can deal with both, today I want to talk about what do you do when one performs very high. We'll call that an outlier. And sometimes, it's like you go to a group of people and there's somebody who's a little loud and obnoxious, or there's somebody who's loud, but they're funny and you enjoy it and they're drawn to that. Well, today I want to talk about an outlier that is outperforming your average content. And specifically, I want to talk about video content. And how do you start using that to help build more sales or more leads for your company? So the easiest thing for me to do is I want to share my screen. So let's just share this. And this is just one of our channels that we actually take care of. This is Swing Point Media. And I just want you to look at the numbers here. Here's the number of views, 1,300, just under 1,400, 34, 23, 10. And then all of a sudden there's 32,116. That is what I'll call an outlier. This is something that just outperformed everything else. And what is this kind of telling us? Well, that's telling us this is a problem that our ideal customer has commonly asked that they need answered. So what would we do with this? Well, first of all, we'd make sure we have a piece of blog content that's on our website for that. We may then go back and say, well, what if we posted more content around this topic, which in this topic is, does content marketing for HVAC companies work? And this is obviously a very good question because, that's our target market, HVAC companies. And we want them to know that content marketing does work. Well, there's 32,116 views on that particular video. That is what we call an outlier. So again, we'll take that and we'll probably go back and put in, some call to action banners on that video. So like click here to schedule a free call or maybe a consultation, whatever it may be. And then in the description, we'll also put some information in there to change the call to action. That will help possibly for that traffic that is watching that video to go ahead and click through and maybe contact Swing Point Media. The other thing we're going to do is, as I say, we're going to take that content and we're going to start creating content around that, because that is something that, let's face it, if they're an HVAC marketing company or any kind of company, they're wondering, hey, does content marketing work? Well, in our case, we're very specific and niche down to HVAC and plumbing companies to help them get more business using content marketing. Yes, it does work. And we explain that in the video. And it's, it's about a minute and 30 seconds. So it's not a really long video either. And it gets right to the point. We want to make sure that there's probably an end screen on this, and that end screen might lead to maybe a call to action, maybe a landing page, something of that nature. But the other thing, again, is we want to look at that from a holistic standpoint and say, okay, we have this piece of content that's performing incredibly well. So we have an audience out there has kind of raised their hand and said, hey, I'm interested in that. I work for an HVAC company. I own an HVAC company. And I want to know, does content marketing work? Maybe they're doing paid advertising, which can be quite expensive, and it has no long-term longevity to that. In other words, when you stop running ads, the ads stop, the traffic can stop. Where content marketing, once you start building that content, and in this case, it's like, hey, once you create an article that says, why does my air conditioner blow warm air? Well, that's going to be a question that's asked today, tomorrow, 10 years down the road, because people want to know, what do I do when my air conditioner starts blowing warm air? So that's the value of content. The other thing we're going to do is going to go back and we're going to say, okay, we posted this some time ago. This was back on February 11th, 2022. And what we want to do is we want to go back and find that article and make sure that on that article that we also have a call to action on that page. So in other words, we're going to optimize every place where this video shows up. We're also going to start creating more content around this particular topic because, again, we know this is a problem statement or a pain point for HVAC companies, our ideal customers. So we'll have more of these type of pieces that go on there. You should do the same. If you find, I'll give you an example. I'll take this down. We have one client that is an HVAC company, and we were looking at some things yesterday. My staff and I, we were looking at it, and we found 3 or 4 videos that were what we call outliers. And so we immediately went in and we created a series of, it's a total of 60 posts that will run every other day, basically 3 times a week, to promote that particular topic with a stronger call to action. The other thing is now we're putting that on about 4 different platforms. So now all of a sudden we have tripled the exposure for that particular company. We'll see this as an opportunity because it's one of those things we say, we may sell a lot of things in the convenience store, but what do the people typically come in for? We want to make sure to be stocked up properly for that and put it in a place where they can find it. Well, if people are calling in and saying, as an example, why is my air conditioning leaking water? Then we're going to make sure that we have plenty of easy access that those people can find us and hire us to fix that problem. And we'll do that again through the video. We'll probably cut that up into a lot of different shorts, and we'll put that on YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, maybe even some TikTok Reels, talking about that. So the question today was, hey, what do we do? What do we do with an outlier? We want to make sure we look at that as a positive and say, hey, this is a clue. These are people. If we had people in a group and we said, hey, out of these 10 M&Ms, what's your favorite? And, in this situation where it was overwhelmingly like, if we had 100 people and 82 of them say they like the color yellow, guess what? We are going to then address the color yellow and give them more of what they want. That's helping us kind of, if you will, our ideal client is raising their hand and saying, hey, this is what we want more content of. We don't want red ones. We don't want blue ones. We certainly don't want green ones. We want yellow ones. So we want to make sure to create more yellow ones. If you found this helpful, let me know. Put a comment in the section. Or if you have a question about this particular topic, what do you do with an outlier? Please put it in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to before I dart out of here, and I'll also watch for it. We're on multiple platforms sharing this. And okay, that's about it. I wanted to jump on here, just kind of impromptu, and share this with you. Of hey, what do you do with an outlier? Somebody asked, what do you do if it's an outlier and it's the other way? Well, this is also a great opportunity. What do you do with an outlier that is underperforming? So let's go back to this particular screen and let's pick out. Let's say we have one here. Let's just use this as an example as 10. Now, this was not one of our normal posts, but let's just use this as an example. Well, the first thing we might do is we say, well, we have this saying is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. In other words, don't go through full wholesale changes, because if things improve, we're not sure what actually caused that to improve. So what we want to do is we want to take it bit by bit. So we might say, all right, in this, we want to change the title. So let's change the title of that and let's let it run for a couple of weeks and see if we notice any increase. If we don't notice any increase, then we might say, well, let's look at the thumbnail. How does the thumbnail perform? And then we might change that thumbnail and we'll let it run for a couple more weeks. Then we might get in there and say, all right, we want to change the description of that video. In other words, we'll look at it one piece at a time. And what we're doing is we're kind of tweaking it. As a kid, it would be one of those things where I remember my dad would have to get outside and move the rabbit ears for the television to say, it's just right. The signal is coming in strong. Well, we do the same thing. We don't tear the antenna off the roof. We slowly adjust it until we get the right signal. Because ideally, if we can take that same video and we can say, hey, 10 people were watching that, and now we got up to 100, we 10x'd our effort, and we didn't have to really do anything different. And then we would just slowly go through all of these and keep moving up. The one that had 1,300, this is a little different. This is something about pickleball, so maybe we wouldn't do that. But that's when it comes to marketing. Again, this is a channel that has many different topics on it. But we might go through here and again take one piece at a time. The same can be true if you look at a blog post. If you have Google Analytics on your website and you're saying, hey, there's some particular posts on my website that are doing really well and getting all this organic traffic, what are the common things for that? When you already have a lot of traffic, like I'll give you an example. One of our clients, they are getting about 1,700 views coming to one particular blog post every month. Well, what do you think we did with this? Well, this is our own little mini Google search engine, because what's happening is the people coming off of Google are looking for a very specific question to be answered, which that particular blog post will answer. On that post, what do? We put an offer on that post. In other words, we start converting some of that traffic who out there in Google or a search engine raise their hand and say, I want to know more about this. Oh, here's an article that does that. They come to the page where that article lies. And then through the article, they show the authority and the knowledge and the wisdom from that particular client, which then makes it natural for them to say, oh, here's an offer, for $25 off to take advantage of this XYZ offer. So that's a way you can do it. And you do just the opposite when you look at something that is underperforming. It could be changing the title, right? Then changing the media, whether it's a video, it's the images, whatever it might be, the description, maybe the meta tag. You want to change things like that. In other words, there's no reason to create content just to create content. We want to try to get every piece of content performing at its very best and push these outliers up. I mean, if we could take a look at this, if we could push each one of these up to 1,000, and this one continues to be at 32,000 because it's growing. I think it's growing at about 10,000 a month now. All right. So we should see this let's say by the end of the year, it could be as high as 60 or 70,000 views. Well, that will all trigger into this other content, because within that, we're also going to put some, hey, if you like this video, watch this video. And it's kind of like what I call breadcrumbing. I've done videos on it before, so I won't bore you with that. So anyway, that's what do you do with an outlier? Well, it depends on if it's an outlier good or an outlier not so good, but both should be addressed. Thanks for joining me again. My name is Jeff Harrison of Swing Point Media. You can always get a hold of me at jeff@swingpointmedia or jeff@swingpointmedia.com. That's my email address. Thanks. Have a great day.